Hi, everybody. Welcome to Astrology Unplugged. Good to have you. I'm Rick DiClemente of Star Self Astrology. This is session, I believe, 166. I want to thank those of you who got involved and completed the 10-week course. I want to especially thank people who were kind enough to donate to Star Self and help us pay our bills. It was very much appreciated. Tonight, I thought we'd get back to normal, and I want to remind you once again, I've sent this out in email. Every week I send out email to those on the mailing list, letting you know who's on the show, what the show's about. We're trying to get back to normal here, even though we're all induced coma. That's the word Liza said. We're all in an induced coma. So let's all be safe and stay away from that nasty bug. And I really don't want to talk about the bug tonight. I really don't want to talk about the people I'm going to read for you tonight. But I'm going to read for you. Remember, my primary job is to show you how to read a chart. Secondarily, thoughts about what they're doing in the world. And you've seen the names of the 6 people that we're going to go over tonight, their charts. I've tried to pick those with birth times because it really makes it a lot better and more accurate. Don't be afraid to write down questions as we go through, those of you live. And at the end of the show, raise your hand and ask the questions. If it helps you to learn to interpret a chart, that's what I'm here for. Okay, we'll try to get to 1 hour with the 6 people, and we'll see if there's time for questions. All depends on how much of my voice is left. Hi, Susan in Cleveland. Hello, everybody. Now, we're going to start off tonight in the same order that I did on the list, alphabetically. And like I said, if you're not getting the list, make sure to go to my website, starself1word.com, and you can sign up for the newsletter there. Sometimes you'll get a newsletter. A lot of times you'll get the weekly announcement of what's coming up on the show. Or you can also do it through friending me at Facebook. Hello, Linda, Jordan Platt. Good to have you aboard. We're going to start off with Mr. Biden. And I do have a couple editorial comments to make at the end of this about possibilities during the election, etc. So we'll start with Joe. And Liza and I really had our eyes open the last few days once we did his chart. Now, I'm always cautious whenever I got anybody born on the hour or born at 8:30, and almost everybody I've ever read for says they're born at 6 o'clock in the morning. Almost everybody. So it's very easy to get a bad birth time. Don't trust it. Make sure you're getting it from the birth certificate or from the family Bible or from something. But if you get a questionable source, don't believe it. So the reason it's a big deal with Mr. Biden is you'll notice that Mr. Biden has Uranus at 246, right on the descendant, and the descendant is 311. So we're talking about a half a degree from the descendant. Now, I'm going to tell you again, I cannot express clearly enough how powerful a planet is when it's on one of the angles. Ascendant, descendant, midheaven, nadir. Yes, I'm losing my voice already. When a planet is on, and I've got Uranus here too, but it's 5 degrees away. He's got a half a degree away. Even though he's a Scorpio with 4 planets in Scorpio, and I do believe he's got Sag rising, and you can definitely see that big, beautiful smile that he has, which is Venusian. Venus and Libra are usually one and the same when you're talking about beautiful natural smiles. Now, this Uranus in Gemini, Gemini being the nervous system, this is definitely why he has difficulty with stuttering, when he has difficulty what appears to be be changeable, changing his tune. You cannot stay constant when you've got a strong Uranus. You just cannot do it. It's a hyper spastic kind of energy. And when you talk about spastic or spasms, those are all Uranian things. So you can see at 2 degrees, it's very close to opposition to his Venus. In fact, when I do a chart like this, I combine all 3 of these planets and make them opposite these 2. These 3 opposite those 2. So you've got Venus, Sun, Mercury, Mars, all in Scorpio. 3 of them are buried in the 12th house. Keep that in mind. But, like I say, there are some signs you only want to have one of because the energy is too strong. Scorpio is one of those. When you have too many Scorpio planets, especially being a male, it definitely pushes you towards the underhanded, manipulative side. Now, I don't know if he's got that. He sure is a clever politician. But you'll see some charts. For instance, when I see a Libra, I only want one planet there because I want the other planets to strengthen it. When I see a Cancer, I want one planet there, other planets to strengthen it. Because some sun signs have a natural pitfall that needs to be helped by other planets. So you can see with Mr. Biden, Vice President, that look at don't fall asleep by looking at the images. Look at the numbers. The Sun Venus is very, very close, 1 degree. Sun Venus is somebody who just enjoys life. Okay. Now, Venus opposite Uranus is the flirt. When you read Arroyo and you try to ascertain what these combination of planets mean, Venus opposite Uranus is the flirt. And we know that he's got some accusations outstanding, which I will comment on no further. Now, you'll notice that these 3 planets are opposite Uranus and opposite Saturn, and they all send a T-square up to Chiron in Leo in the 9th house. So you draw that Chiron about this big. That's how powerful that is. Now, when somebody has Chiron in Leo, what that means is they've got philosophies and opinions, and you can fight all day, all you want, and you're not going to shake this person from their belief. And those are the kind of energies you have to be a politician. Think of all the stuff you're going at all the time. Everybody's targeting you on everything. The trouble in this chart, secondarily, is on the 12th house, but primarily it's the opposition to Uranus. Now, the Uranus will help him become flexible, adjust to situations, etc., a good communicator. But it's very hard to hold steady. And Scorpio is one of the most steady signs there is. Scorpio Taurus. This is how I feel, boom. That's it. Well, you don't get that kind of firmness, steadiness when it's opposite Uranus, when it's opposite Saturn, both in Gemini, which is a wild sign for Uranus to be. Now, I'm going to talk later on. I've superimposed the planets from coming November 3rd, the election. I've superimposed the planets on November 3rd over top of him and over top of the White House imposter. And I will show you what I think, which is kind of interesting. Now, with the Chiron and Leo up in his 9th house, he's got the ability to lead the country. And he's got tremendous pride. And he's not going to let anybody knock us down. There's no doubt about it. It's very strong. But you have to ask yourself, is that Chiron and Leo up there really power-based? Is he really doing all this for power? When you see 4 planets in Scorpio and all the Leo up there, does he really want to be king? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think the 12th house changes those scorpionic planets. I'll explain to you. See, I'm teaching astrology, analyzing personality, second. 12th house planets only succeed when you give them to God. 12th house planets only succeed when you offer them, when you put them in the light of God, when you include God in the package. If you try to carry your ego and ego planets into the 12th house, you will not make it. You will be shunned. You will be shamed. You'll be full of scandal. So there's a very good possibility that he is very deeply religious, and because of his tragedies in his family life, he has become somewhat of a man of God. I think you can see that with him. I think a lot of that is genuine. And therefore, when you talk about Leo energy at its highest dimension is very noble. And it really wants you, it demands that you treat everybody with dignity. And I think we can see that with him. And I think it is honest. Anyhow, he's had to work very hard for what he's got because he's had to tame these wildcat planets. And I would go into his past life planets to see where this came from. Neptune is in the 7th and the 10th house. We see a really powerful grand trine from Eris at 4 to Pluto at 7 to Venus. So it's got Venus and Pluto. I'm sorry. Yes. Venus and Pluto and Eris. So this is somebody who is able to relate to people at a deep level. Also, with Pluto tied to Eris, this is very indicative that he might just be the one to handle this kind of ultra mess that we're in. Don't ignore trines. Trines are very powerful, and if anything is causing the trouble we're in now, it is Pluto and mainly Eris. So this is a very good sign to see this. Of course, the Republicans will pick on him because of that Uranus unsteadiness. When you have Uranus problems and you have Gemini involved, almost always you'll see it at first when the baby's born. The baby will have trouble with their nervous system. They'll be slow learners. Their nervous system is overwhelmed easily. Strokes, nervous energy, hyperness, tics. That's not abnormal. We people with strong, powerful Uranuses cannot control the energy. It's just too powerful. It's like you're always working with your finger plugged into 220. Believe me, I know what it's like. Liza knows what it's like. It's just the way it is. This powerful Uranian energy is always pouring through you. And in his case, you don't want it that close. You don't want it half a degree away. Let the chart breathe a little bit. So we really hope that his ascendant is incorrect a little bit. I'll show you. Every 3 minutes and 56 seconds, for about every 4 minutes, this ascendant changes 1 degree. So if he were born like 8 minutes earlier or later, this Uranus would be away from that descendant a couple of minutes or a couple degrees, which would make the Uranian tension tightrope would make it milder. But such is not the case. I am not a big believer, nor do I have a lot of talent in analyzing the North Node. A lot of astrologers put tremendous importance into the North Node. I don't, but we do notice the North Node is at 0 Virgo, which is really close to squaring the ascendant too. So all this is going to his Chiron North Node in the 9th house of philosophy, of thinking, and dealing with things overseas. Where does the tragedy befall him of with his children and losing his first wife? we see the accident-prone Uranus is very prevalent in the chart. I would really like to, if I had the time, study his 12th harmonic and see where these energies come from, but we're going to continue. The next person alphabetically is Giuliani, which is interesting because my grandmother, that was her maiden name, exactly, spelled the same way. No relation, thank goodness. It is unbelievable how many friends and associates, I won't call them friends, it's amazing how many associates Mr. Imposter has that are Geminis. William Barr, Pence. It's just amazing. I can make a list of them. Look at Giuliani. Sun in Gemini, next to Uranus, 1 degree. This means he has got potential brilliance. When your main planet is next to Uranus, he's also a really fast talker. This is the kind of guy you could shoot a revolver at his toes. Dance, dance, and he can do it. And he made his debut, you might say, publicly from the aftermath of 9/11. At that time, Jupiter was just about to return. September 11th, 2001, Jupiter was about here, just about to return, and Saturn was here. Saturn was just about to return. And you can see Saturn is really major because he's got this opposition right across the ascendant of Neptune and Eris, which we'll get to. And then Neptune and Eris, which is very powerful, sends its energy up to Saturn at the top. And what does Saturn do during a Saturn return? And what is Saturn's ability at the midheaven? It certainly is a symbol of a main leader in the midst of chaos who can come up and steady the ship. Let's get a grip on what's going on. And he appeared to do that at the time, and thus you got his name across the papers. Now, the very difficult thing in the chart is right here. Okay. All right, let me explain to you. When you have Neptune right there on the ascendant, it means a couple things. Number one, it means no matter what you do in your life, this is so powerful, you will not avoid your spiritual charges, what you're supposed to do spiritually. If you don't do them, you usually end up a scandal. Now, not a lot of people can handle Neptune right there. It's within 2 degrees. When it's not handled properly, it's usually somebody that's very underhanded. We got to keep looking at the chart to see. The question is, can a Sun, Uranus, and Gemini person handle all of the planets in Leo? Can a Gemini handle 4 planets in Leo without falling prey to the ego? These are very egocentric planets that are hard to Neptunize. They can be done. It can be done. But usually a combination like this is somebody who wants power and is deceptive. Usually, not always. But you've got Moon, Jupiter, Pluto, and Mars together in Leo. So what you have with Giuliani is a real temptation to say anything to get on camera. And the famous Gemini quality, infamous, is changing the subject, being slippery. I didn't say that. It's on the tape, but I didn't say that. I didn't say that. We got an imposter in the White House that's got the same Sun and Gemini. So, other people, maybe in the East or in India, would take Mr. Giuliani's chart with that Neptune rising and could possibly turn it into a Yogananda type of chart. being very spiritual, being very inspired and open to God's grace. When Neptune is so prominently placed, early signs usually cannot access it well, because early signs are not made to deal with universal energies. So, what happens is, what I think consistently goes on, he's got a very large closet, and he keeps shoving a lot of closet under this great big fat rug. Stuff keeps getting shoved under that big rug. And when planets come and shine on that, like eclipses, that's when it gets aired out. But he's got Pluto, Mars, he's got Moon in Leo. He's got a great sense of self-survival. Tremendous. Gingrich, another Gemini. Their sense of primal self-survival is phenomenal. So, I am not saying he's underhanded and a liar, but unless he's really, really spiritually developed, which I really don't see, then he is. And that's what the chart tells you. And if I can give you any advice, my friends, listen to what the chart tells you. Don't listen to your eyeballs. Don't listen to your ears. Listen to what the chart tells you. Okay? So anyhow, I would never trust it. My opinion. Now, I almost replaced him with William Barr tonight, but I couldn't get a birth time on Barr, another Gemini with Moon in Leo. The Moon in Leo can be very magnanimous and very regal and noble, but it operates much better with the females than it does with the males. The males, about my experience, about 80% of the males with Moon in Leo can't stay away from the power enticements. Just can't do it. And if you're going to be mayor of New York, you're going to have to learn to deal with power. No simple job. Moving on. Okay. Boy, my favorite. The man who's just about destroying the planet by himself, Mr. Sean Hannity. Boy, I got things to say here. I got the birth time for him today, and I was stunned. We got a Capricorn, Venus and Mars, without much exception. Venus or Mars is almost always somebody who's narcissistic. I've told you, I have seen exceptions when the Venus and Mars are in Virgo, which is humble, or the Venus and Mars are in Pisces, which is humble. Even then, I've seen the narcissism come about. What's the basis of the T-square? Moon is opposite Eris. Eris is a very collective energy here. We see pretty much a bucket pattern to Eris. Eris is all about, I'm not going to let you get away with stuff. I'm going to stand up for people. I'm going to be the voice of the people. So this man is angry all the time, Erica. He thinks that he is on a God mission to save the public with his conservatism. And my God, he's got the personal phone right into Trump's bedroom. He's extremely dangerous. In my opinion, he's one of the most destructive forces on the earth. There's a lot of blood on his hands because a lot of people are walking around brainwashed because of him. My opinion. Now, I'm going to show you where it comes from. Typically, Capricorn doesn't want this kind of power. Typically, Capricorn is very social and they want to be a good citizen. That's what Capricorn's all about. Stop at that red light. Stop at that yellow light. Then go. That's Capricorn. I'm willing to stop at the yellow light. Other people will stretch it. They got a great sense of duty and responsibility. But what happens with him is he's turned it into private power needs. He's a big time, massive manipulator. from the chart. Now, other people could take this chart and be different, quite possibly, but he's got, let's get our little circle thing out again. But he's got Pluto right on the ascendant, 10 degrees, 8 degrees. So these are really big, big temptations towards power. All of this T-square goes through 14.9, goes through the sun, Mars up here in the 10th house. So the Mars and the sun are really, really blown up like a balloon. And when you have a 10th house sun, which is a very public sun, all of a sudden you got the capacity and the desire to just take over the world, especially with a jive, insincere moon in Libra. This is his charming smile. He is charming. He's got charisma. He's been back at this. Remember in the days when the TV show used to be Hannity and Combs, where he represented the right, and Mr. Combs represented the left? That came from here. He's been at this a long time. Now, he's got the potential to be very just. He's got the potential to be very much a leader. But he, in my opinion, has blown it because he really believes he's fighting the bad guy. And here's where it comes from. Here's where it comes from. This is at 10. This is at 3. And a lot of this goes through the Venus, the Sun, Venus, Mars in Capricorn. In Capricorn, in this 10th house Capricorn, he is all about doing things the way they're supposed to be done, doing things the way the fathers set it up. What is with these crazy left-wing snowflakes? He is really, really traditional. Yes, I'm going to get to that moon. That moon's a big deal. When you see followers for Trump, it is always two things: strong Cancer or moon, strong Capricorn or Saturn. Always. Because they don't want the past ruffled. That what's wrong with you people shaking in the bushes here? What's wrong with you people shaking up the apple cart? What are you doing here? Let's go back to the way it was. What's wrong with you newfangled kooks? And that's how he sees things. And my belief is he sees the world this way. You can't tell me this guy's smart. You can't tell me he doesn't know what idiots in the White House. But he knows what power is. He knows how to ride it. How else is he going to get an inch away from the presidency? This guy is extremely dangerous. I would say a lot more, but I don't want him after me. He's got too much power. He's extremely dangerous because he's painting a fake world of what's normal and everybody else. Did you notice on MSNBC, they're pretty much telling you how things are, and CNN and Hannity is just continually, nonstop, beating on Hillary, beating on Obama, beating on anybody anti-Trump from the get-go all night long. You don't think it has a huge impact? It does. And he's got the power. He's got the Pluto sitting on the angle. He's got the sun at the top of the chart. He's got tremendous ability to express himself. And he appears apple pie. He's got the flag waving in the background. Okay, and I got a lot to say about the Fox network, which is a different issue. Anyhow, you guys are chatting with me and I don't have the time to read it. I'm sorry. Now, this moon is involved. This moon is very dangerous. This moon is square to, at 14, it's square to Mercury, and it's in the 11th house. Mercury in the 11th house means I will talk and I will lead you. Saturn is in the 11th house. I will be a natural leader for you. So he really feels that his conservative issues are the answer to everything, and he's going to do everything he can to incite everybody to do what he thinks. Now, notice here he's got a real sleepy Chiron in Pisces in the 12th house, and he's got Pisces rising. Well, you sure don't see it, but what happens with Pisces when it's abused? What happens with Pisces when it's not used correctly? It becomes egomania. You believe that God anointed you. It's that simple. It's that simple. Now, take a look at this. Yes, you had the years with Hannity and Combs, but look what happened. 2008, 2000, whatever. Pluto came in here, 2008. Went over here, 9, 2010, 11, 12. Pluto's gone over all these planets, and it's approaching his Saturn. Okay? It's approaching his Saturn. Pluto's right here now. The United States United States Pluto is at 26 Capricorn. He's got a Saturn. He's just had his Saturn return recently in the 11th house. So a lot of the reason that he has been able to continue is that he believes in what he's doing. He believes he is strong enough, and he believes he's got the balls to do it. He believes that he is fighting the fight to save democracy in USA. Moon in Libra is not strong enough to do it. It's just not strong enough, and has a real tendency towards disingenuousness. So you have to take that Pluto on that descendant, and you have to analyze. Is he really using his power to help America, or is he using it to be a corporate puppet, which is what he is, and go after George Soros? An amazing chart. And I found out tonight by digging deeper with his chart and with Trump's chart, they're protected by the planets because their archetype has to continue in order for America to really aim at a clear target. Most people by now, Trump would have been knocked all over the place and brought down, but he's protected by Jupiter. Every time you see trouble in his chart, Jupiter's right there. The planets protect him because we need the archetype held high of the ugly American. We need that archetype there so we can start to see who we are and be honest about it. Unfortunately, you get protesters in Michigan that block up the highways so the hospital people can't get to work. Let me move on. All right. Next, we have Kamala Harris. A lot of people talking about her as a potential running mate with Biden. Now, I have my questions about her. I'm a little uneasy with her. I was also uneasy with Klobuchar, but since then, I've become more in her court, especially by seeing her true compassion come out of her with her concern for her husband who was undergoing this virus. When you have a Libra, I don't care male or female, Libra people are very savvy. They know how to fight in the streets. They just do. Because in their mind, that's all there is. In their mind, it's all the street fighting. It's all social. Very few of them look up and beyond. When you look at Kamala Harris from California, we see a nice birth time of 9/28. So somebody's looking at the clock. We got Gemini rising. Sun is in Libra next to Mercury. That's no big deal. That's common. The moon is in Aries. She's born during an exact full moon, 27/27. I didn't look it up, but it might be a lunar eclipse. This is very powerful when you're born during a full moon, 27/27. So her moon is in the 11th house. This is a real strong symbol here. Let me get my doohickey again. Okay. This is a very powerful stellium, a triplicate of planets. 13, 15, 17. Impossible to translate. But the Uranus-Pluto conjunction of October 65, we see she's born 1 year before Uranus and Pluto first met up. So that you're seeing it. I'm not quite sure how this happened. I'm not going to go into it. She's got the Uranus, Pluto, Venus. This is a powerhouse. And where's the ascendant? The ascendant's at 24. So the Venus is kind of square too, but not really. She's got the Uranus, Pluto, Venus opposite Chiron. We all have Chiron opposite Uranus, born from 52 to 89. But it pretty much goes up and down the midheaven with Saturn. So the Saturn has a lot to do with her role fighting for the people, being a humanitarian. The Jupiter is opposite Neptune, and you got to be real careful with Jupiter opposite Neptune. This is the key to this chart. Jupiter opposite Neptune down to Mars and Leo. So what this means is, does she or does she not have a valid spirituality? Because Jupiter opposite Neptune, she thinks she does, but does she? Because this, which is often diluted, Jupiter-Neptune is oftentimes the ones who follow the lemmings into the sea, cults. But you got to be very careful and test the validity of these two planets. This can get real goofy, and especially because it T-squares to Mars and Leo in the third house. You got Jupiter opposite Neptune T-squared to Mars and Leo. So what that means is she's got the ability to sound good, to sound really confident. And if I know anything from following politics, the sheeple want to follow people that seem strong. I don't care if they're strong or not, if they seem strong. Cancer country go, oh, they're going to protect me. I don't have to worry about my baby, so I'm voting for her. Now, I'm not saying she's invalid. I don't trust her myself. I haven't seen enough yet. But she's got a very powerful Mars and Leo in the third house, which means when she got to say something to you, she's going to say it. But is it really coming from a Jupiter-Neptune that's authentic or not? Or is it coming from a social one-upmanship and a keeping up with the Joneses and a Libra who just wants to get higher socially? So that's the question. I don't have the answer. The 3 Virgo planets at the bottom really help a lot, because Virgo planets really, you keep sending me messages and I don't have time to read them. I just keep repeating myself. Jupiter-Neptune is really powerful when it's together. When you see it in square or in opposition, you have a lot more trouble with it, because the tendency is to think, I'm sent by God. Very few people have the Jupiter-Neptune opposition and can handle it. I've seen people that can. I don't guess and I don't read books. I ask the person. I follow with questions. So I've seen it be real. But the possibility, especially when it's defending a Mars and Leo, she's going to come back and defend her actions and say that God told her to do this, or if she feels God inspired. Now, she might be really real. And I found Virgo planets in the charts can be very testy. Sometimes they're strong enough to give honor and humility to the personality. Sometimes they're not. So really the question in the chart is how much is that Virgo stuff really turning the chart towards positive? Because Virgo planets are really humble. They really do have a sense of service. When I watch her, I don't get a sense that she's here to serve. Maybe people do. I don't know. So she's a question mark for me. But she is powerful. Mars and Leo means if you want to tumble, you're going to have to tumble with her because she's tough. So what else do we look at now? What do we look at is everything's happening right now at the 24th degree of Capricorn. So everything's happening with Pluto. Everything's happening in her 8th house, okay? And Eris is up in this area. Eris is up here and Pluto is over here. So everything's happening in her 8th house, and it's all heading towards her midheaven. So there's a strong likelihood as things start to go towards the public midheaven, there's a strong likelihood that she will be chosen as VP. Real strong chance of this. Let me see if I'm correct here. Here's natal. All right, here's the chart I put together. I put together 2 into 1, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. What I mean by put together is called a composite chart. And if your sun is at 10 and my sun is at 20, then the composite sun is at 15. So the computer does it all for you. And these composite charts are very telling, but they're very tricky. You don't pay attention to the sign. You pay attention to the planet placement in aspect to other planets and what houses the planets are in. Now, I put Harris together with Biden just to see how they would pair up in a natural way. I got exactly what I thought I'd get. All right. Exactly what I thought. A questionable Venus-Neptune, 1 degree away. Again, when Neptune is involved in a chart, it's going to make you really spiritual for real or fake. It's what destroyed the Republican Party. And it's when they died in 2018. Neptune will make you for real, but it's a very subtle, Christ-like planet, and you got to be very humble to gain its access, and it's very powerful, and it's the silent voice within. Do you see Republicans following the silent voice within? Yeah, that's McConnell. That's who they're following. So we have a very strong Venus-Neptune in the composite of Harris and Biden. And this means that they've got the potential to really do what's right for people, to really function for the people in a Mother Teresa type of way, really caring for the people. The opposite of what's going on now in DC, or smoke and mirrors. And I got the feeling a lot from her during the debates that she knew how to manipulate the press. She really knew how to say the right words. I don't know. I'm going to leave it at that. But anyhow, back to the chart. Certainly, it's not the only thing in the chart. The Sun, Mercury up in the 9th means they have very strong philosophical beliefs. The opposition to the moon. The moon in charts like this shows their attitude towards the masses. So they would try to either inspire people to the real good side of Neptune or pull the wool over them. I don't know. That's the difficult part of astrology. And the T-square all goes where? Boom, to Uranus in Cancer, which the child of the 50s had. Uranus in Cancer means they have a very powerful Aquarian thread going through them, and it could be a very good energy for unspaghettifying what we're in now. All the spaghetti code is going on, all the mess of how everything's entangled. They have the potential to deal with it. Now, with Saturn, we actually, in this case, we want to see Saturn closer to the moon. Not too close, but closer, because if anything is going to get you through this mess, it's going to be one big fat Saturn. Only Saturn can clear up this mess. Saturn comes in and says, okay, everybody stop. This is what's going on there. Get these nurses, get them what they need there. Let's go talk to them. Let's get this done. The country needs a Capricorn energy at the moment. The good high Capricorn with a strong dose of Aquarius. Okay, enough of that. Let me move on. My computer is doing something weird. Uh-oh. You can't look at Saturn moon as depression because it's two people. I keep getting questions, and I don't have the time to answer them. Okay, let's get back to the chart. Saturn moon in a composite chart usually means one person is seen as more the depressing aspect of the couple. One's more emotional, one's more depressing. Composite charts have an amazing ability when you see conjunctions, it personifies. One of them is the Saturn, one of them is the moon. Sometimes they switch. They got it and they swap. But the moon person keeps seeing the Saturn person as moon people always see the enemy as trying to attack you. That's how the moon sees things. So we could see one person is a downer on the other, or they feel that way, and then they swap. And it can actually be a very good symbol. Saturn can be a really good symbol for lasting, for stability, stamina. And whoever's going to go unspaghettify this thing we're in is going to have a really strong Saturn. Are you guys learning? Yes, you are. Yes, very good. Okay. All right, let's go to the next one. Klomuchar. Now, it's interesting. I'm going to go back here. Get rid of this. Mistake. Klomuchar. As I said, when I first did her during the 20 lineup, when we had our massive debates, I did not like her energy. Very seldom will you see a double Gemini. Putting Mercury here is almost like a triple Gemini. Very seldom will you see a double Gemini, especially at the tip of a T-square. Very seldom will a double Gemini be able to be solid, down to earth, practical, etc. Now, when you got the sun in Gemini and the moon in Gemini, you've got a double whammy in terms of, do they have any emotions? Are they just surface? And then I just watched her and watched her and watched, and I saw different things. I heard different things her staff said, etc. But I watched her closely in the past 2 weeks when she was not able to see her husband and he was being quarantined. And you saw the sun and moon, not in Gemini, but you saw the sun and moon by the nadir. You saw the sun and moon in the fourth house. And then I started to see the Cancer in her. Because planets in the fourth house bring out Cancerian qualities. Then I saw how much her husband meant to her. And I saw the emotional depth that she does have. Most sun and moons in Gemini don't have emotional depth. You put it in the 8th house or you put it in the 4th house and you get that. And then I became more impressed with her. Lord knows she's smart. Lord knows she has a ton of information in her head, being a Gemini. I became much more favorable towards her chart when I was looking at it after that. Now, look here. Here we go again. By the way, the number one thing you see with politicians who succeed usually is a lot of Taurus energy. The computer wants to update my chart. No, we don't want to update the chart. Oh, well, that doesn't work. Oh, let's pause the recording for a second. Okay, here we are again. All right. Let me show you what I mean. You cannot underestimate how powerful planets are when they're on the angles. Ascendant, descendant, midheaven, right there, right in the early fourth house. 0 degrees, 1 degree, 4 degrees. Even as Venus is involved. You have very powerful fourth house planets, and they're at the tip of this T-square. What is the T-square? Pluto opposite Chiron, going across your first house, seventh house. Okay? This is somebody who is, how do I say this? When you have Pluto opposite Chiron, what you have is Chiron has a lot to do with your mission, your hero's journey. And when Pluto's opposite, this is what gives her power. This is what takes her out of being down to earth, or a young, a youthful, kind of curious teenager. This Pluto Chiron makes her really, really universal, and she really is looking for deeper purpose. She's not a typical Gemini. She's not a typical Cancer. She gets tremendous Scorpio energy from the Pluto opposite Chiron. And the energy from that 2 degrees, 3 degrees, all gets sent right down to these planets. So that sun and moon is very Cancerian. It's also very Virgoan, and it's very Scorpionic. So yes, she's got the capacity. But the trick question, the real question in this chart is, what is the Neptune doing? Okay, the Neptune's at 7, the ascendant's at 6. And Neptune at 7 and 6. This again, we're seeing it again. Neptune is prevalent. When Neptune is in your life, in your face, you will never get away from spiritual challenges. You just stay constantly in your face. Why? Because you really want them there. Not the outside. Typical Gemini is not worried about spiritual challenges. Neptune up there makes her really either really interested in fixing the love of the people in this country and getting over on the plutocracy, or again, it's deception, smoke and mirrors, which we find with the Republican Party. I think that she's emanating the positive side of Neptune. I think there's a strong degree of her that's very natural. It really is. She does understand deeper things. Yes, she's got that sharp tongue, which Gemini women have, can tell you right off. But I think she's got a very powerful Pisces. She got a very powerful Scorpio. I'm definitely leaning more towards her than I did in the past. 9 o'clock. Let's keep reading and hope that the computer doesn't restart itself. Okay. Intriguing. Oh, least but not last, let's look at Mitch McConnell. All right. Now, as I told you, one of the things that is really common with politicians is a lot of Taurus. 4 planets in Taurus. He's a Pisces, but who cares? He's a Pisces. You get sense any Pisces energy from Mr. Unconditional Love here? No. You got $26 million he made last year. How did he make $26 million last year? Moon, Mars, Saturn, Uranus. 4 major planets in Taurus. This is how you have the balls to stand up to the whole country and make a decision yourself, which puts the brakes on everything for everybody. Who else has 4 planets in Taurus? An Aries, we know. Pelosi. So you got this standoff between these stubborn Pelosi and stubborn McConnell because they both have 4 planets in Taurus. No wonder the Republicans keep nominating him, because he's very strong in holding his position. But he got gall at the wazoo. He will come in and flatten anything he has to flatten. Now, this can be very good if he's a Pisces, if he's a true Pisces. Then he comes in and he enforces the rules for Pisces energy. Pisces energy is very simple. We all get along. We're all equal. We all love each other. I don't sense that from Mr. Turtle. Do you, Mark? I don't think so. Okay, so therefore you got a very dangerous man. Not because the planets say so, but because that's what he's doing with the planets. I've been criticized before by doing such charts. Well, he's got the potential to turn this around, and some of our most wonderful spiritual leaders have been Tauruses, such as Wayne Dyer, etc. They can be great, but is he using the energy correctly or not? All right, let's take a look. I can't get anything done because I keep having to close all the chats. Now, all right, let's take a look at what's happening here. Look at what's going up and down the midheaven. Very, very, very major. Pluto, Chiron, 6 degrees apart. Venus, Mercury. Pluto opposite Venus. I'll tell you exactly what that means. There's no doubt in my mind. Pluto, 1 degree from opposite Venus. The source of what he does with his power needs, is he's fighting back for being so unaccepted socially. That's what it's all about. From the time he's really little, he's been very much unaccepted socially. Or he could have turned it around and become a powerhouse socially, but he had to work at it. But my opinion is no. He wanted to get the power over everybody. So this is what's behind him. It's not the money. And money's a big deal to Taurus people. It's not the money. He's getting back at everybody that put him down socially. He'll show you how powerful he is. The same thing as Trump. And Trump has a grand cross coming up on his Venus. A grand cross, which we're going to talk about. So, Mr. McConnell could use his energy and become a super powerhouse socially and be a great, great leader. Get his face on a mini Rushmore. But I don't think he's authentic. And what do you see from him? You see consistent fake smile with upside down smile. Well, we're not stupid. All right. The Mercury is opposite Pluto. The Venus is opposite Pluto. The Pluto is on the Chiron. This guy is totally based upon, you're obsessed with energy when it goes up and down the midheaven or it goes across the ascendant. That's your obsession. And this is pretty close. This is actually 8 degrees here because it's kind of wide. This is close. It's 2 planets. It's 4 planets going up and down the midheaven that have all to do with, I will show you what a powerhouse I am in society. I will show you. And it all goes to a moon in Taurus. And the moon's strongest placement in the zodiac is in Taurus, but it's in the 12th house. What does that mean? Very clear. Very clear. What did I tell you about the 12th house? You have to take what you have in the 12th house and give it to God as an offering and surrender. Then it becomes strong because God's working through it. Or if you try to put your ego in its place, you're just going to get hammered. I don't care how much he made, 26 million last year. I don't care how much he makes, how much they stuff in his casket when he's gone. He's going to go through his karma. But he's part of it too. All this stuff is being thrown up to us with Trump, with Barr, with McConnell. It's all being there because we're here to decide, just like at the carnival. Are we going to shoot these things down or not? And remember, that's what I saw for next year. If you've paid attention today on Facebook. The chart that was done for this recent March 20th, you do a chart for the moment of spring. When the sun goes to 0 Aries, we don't care about January 1st. We care about 0 Aries. That's how Western astrology is done. It's all based on 0 Aries. The chart for 2020 has Pluto right on the ascendant. Exactly. And that means the whole world is in for a hellish year with a lot of death. That's it. And I showed you that chart months ago. And that's exactly what we're doing every night, watching the counter go up. But I did the chart for next year, and I published it on my Facebook page today. And the chart for next year, for spring, you do it for Greenwich, England, for the moment that the sun goes into 0 Aries. And Greenwich is the center of astrology in the world. That's why you use the 0 longitude. And in that chart, Jupiter was on the top of the chart in Aquarius. Jupiter was up there with Neptune in Aquarius. Several Pisces planets, several Aquarian planets. Really, really nice planets that show we're starting to get it. We're starting to work together. We're starting to work as a team. We're starting to save each other. Lord knows we're not going to get the help from DC. You see every night everybody's in their chemistry lab trying to fix up and wire up some kind of robot to do this and that. It's frantic and it's marvelous, even though people are being killed. But in that chart also was a bunch of stuff in the 12th house. So the chart showed we're still battling. What I saw was a real significant Venus-Neptune at the top of the chart. And what that means is we're still coming out of this coronavirus period. We're coming out of it, and we're nervous about it. We're nervous about re-socializing again. But a lot of us are real convinced that we got to do it differently, which is why those old ones keep being propped up. The McConnells and Trumps, they keep being propped up because we have to keep shooting them down intentionally. Because what we've been doing wrong so far is waiting for something else to shoot it down for us. And Pluto won't let that happen. Pluto will not shoot your enemy down for you. You will do it or else you will be taken away. So that's why these targets stay there. For us to decide consciously, no, you're not going to do it. We don't want a world like this. We're going to get off our ass and start telling you what we want. If any of you have seen this floating around on Facebook, there's a newly desired, somebody constructed a newly desired 25th Amendment, which was term limits and let's take the money from you and let's get you working for us again. And you'll see this thing floating around with all these points. It was really marvelous. And it really sounded like a people who really wanted to run their own government. Think of that. Okay. So anyhow, we got a really nasty chart with McConnell and a very nasty chart with Hannity. And say what you want, I'll stick to it. And that's what I believe. They could have been different. We had a nasty chart with Oprah. Oprah didn't fall prey to it. Nasty, tough chart. She could have gone down the drain easily. She fought it and she twisted it around. She used the energy. That's why she's a powerhouse. So don't fall into this trap of my chart's bad and therefore I had no choice. You do. It's just your challenges are bigger than others. That's what I see. So I looked at King Dawn's chart today, and I wanted to show you what I saw. And the reason King Dawn's chart has got the word Lavoie next to it is as Ralph Lavoie. He's on Facebook too. I think his name is Ralph. I'm maybe not sure. Mr. Lavoie, he's an expert at fine-tuning a chart down to the minute and second that they were born. Yeah, your birth certificate says one thing. Some people have Mars closer. He put it down here. And the way he does it is he's an expert at rectification. Rectification is the ability to move the ascendant and move the houses around from asking about their divorces, their marriages, their car wrecks, their experience, etc. You will find that the chart only fits in one particular way. Most birth times are wrong. And you notice he's got him born down to the second. 10 minutes after 10, 57 seconds. So that's who Mr. Lavoie is. That's his particular expertise. Anyhow, almost everybody has Mars in this area for Trump. And what the Mars in Leo does, in conjunction to the rest of the chart, it means you think I won't do it? I will do it. You think I won't do it? I will do it. I will show you I do it. Okay, pocket pattern to the whiny moon. The whiny moon. I don't get, everybody hurts my feelings. Nobody loves me. I don't get treated fairly. Okay, but what's happening? Watch this. The Venus-Saturn, I've always told you for years now, the Venus-Saturn is the core problem in the chart because it's not strong like Sun-Uranus. It's not strong like Moon and Sag. It's not charming like the 3 planets in Libra. It's all about getting back at my perceived hurts. As again I said to you, no matter what you do with Trump's chart, it's always protected by Jupiter, which means he's going to stay in that position. And that's why, because we need him there. So we can watch the Saddam statue go down. Wasn't that disappointing when I really wanted to see Saddam go down? And it went down. It was very limp. I was very disappointed. Okay, let's take a look and you'll see what I mean. Okay, we go out of his chart and we go into the planets now. And we repaint the screen for you. Okay, so what's going on now? Here's the secret to the chart right here. Venus and Saturn, 23, 25. On the 24th of this month, in 8 days, Pluto is going to be almost precisely opposite Venus, but it's going to stop. It's going to stop shy. It's already been over to Saturn 3 times. It's going to almost hit that Venus, and that's why he's getting so much flack right now. His weak spot's being hit. But Pluto's going to stop shy, but it is going to go stationary. So it's very likely on the 24th that something's going to really fly in his face. And Pluto is all about the accusations of him misusing his power. And his Mars in Leo says, oh yeah, well then I'll just do away with that that acid rain law that Obama passed. We'll let the acid rain come back into our skies again. We don't care. And that's why he's doing all these things, despite Obama. All because he's not treated right as a little boy. Now, I'm not getting to this point for no reason. Look at what's happening. All this stuff at 24 Capricorn is starting to separate. Now, notice where Eris is. Eris is at 24, 2354. That's at the midpoint of 23 and 25. 24, 24, 24. So the sun is shaking up the Venus-Saturn. Pluto is shaking up the Venus-Saturn. I can't remember what I was looking at earlier. But he's got the mounting pressure on that Venus-Saturn. And when is it going to stop being protected? I don't know. That's why you cannot count this guy out. You can't count him out. There's no reason behind this. So I took his chart. What did I do to it? I know what I did. I put the election chart, the election date on top of Trump, the election date on top of Biden. So here's Mr. Biden. Let's put the planets on top of him during the election, which is November 3rd, I believe. November 3rd, 2020. Okay, and let's see what that does. We'll repaint the screen. Now, I'm telling you, you can do this all you want to your blue, but you will never be able to tell somebody that person B is going to win the election. It just does not compute. Now, I will say, the Hindu astrologers, with their system, they're unbelievable. So I can't say the truth about them. They have a whole different system, and they have an unbelievable method of accuracy that's completely different than Western astrology. So I can't say that they can't predict, but I can definitely safely say that Western astrology can lean you towards what's more probable, but Western astrology is not based on concrete, this will happen. So let's go take a look at this. Remember, here's Mr. Biden. Here's Mr. Biden's birth chart. On the outer ring, we see the planets of November 3rd of Election Day. One of the things I found that I really liked about this chart, which made a lot of sense to me, is Chiron is in Aries and it's on his Eris. Chiron is on Eris, is moving to get closer from 5 degrees back to 4 degrees. And Chiron on Eris in the 4th house opposite Neptune. That is a symbol of somebody who is naturally being sent forth by the public for the concern of the health and well-being of the country. And it's lining up with his natural sense of direction. This is very favorable. I didn't see anything unfavorable, but it's very favorable. It's kind of like we're saying, you're being knighted, you're being knighted, go out to battle force. We need a leader, please go lead. And he's taking it upon him. And that kind of leadership that we need now is the Leo thing. We need the powerful fixed fire of Leo. We need the powerful fixed water of Scorpio. We need the energy of Capricorn or Aquarius. But you got to have this kind of energy to face up to these things and to fight through them. And this guy has the experience of dealing with lots of international episodes. So I'm not too nervous about him. He's not my first choice, but he's a lot better than what we have. Now, let's take a look at King Donald's chart. Very intriguing. Donald Trump quit dynamic bi-wheel. We move it to 11/3/2020. Okay, we are running out of time, but I'm going to finish it. I got used to doing the classes for an hour and a half, and I intended to do this for just an hour, but we'll do whatever we need. Okay, here we see the king in the middle. Here we see the outer planets during the election. Pluto, remember now, this, got to analyze this closely. This Saturn Venus, 2348 and 2552, 2542, the midpoint's around 24. Midpoints are very sensitive because they emanate the pairing of the two planets. Pluto, 23, right opposite to Saturn. Look, Jupiter's still here trying to save you. Unbelievable, the chart, you see. Jupiter's always there. Look, Chiron, 23, 24. Look, Mercury, his ruling planet, has just gone retrograde, and now it's over. This is symbolic. This is the day that Mercury comes out of retrograde. Look at the Grand Cross. Mercury, Eris, Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter. 5 planets are all pounding on his Venus Saturn. Mercury, his ruler, has gone stationary. Going backward, that's the day it stops to go forward at 26. Jupiter 21, Pluto 23, Saturn 26, Eris at 24. Make no mistake about it. This whole virus thing is all about Eris and Pluto, 23, 22. They're all lined up with that, okay? In my opinion, what we're seeing is the Trump virus. And I mean that. I mean that, what's the word we use for the new age? Can't remember. Apocalypse. It's not just apocalypse. Quantumly. I mean it quantumly. It's quantum. He is the virus. Quantumly. Look at the numbers worldwide. You see all these numbers, and all of a sudden, there's a U.S. He's a thought form. He's a way of being that has to end, or the earth ends. Right, Mark? He has to end, or the earth ends. His way of thought, his way of supporting the elite. So I will stop now. I think it's pretty intriguing what these charts show. I will stop now, and I'll open it up to you. Anybody that has a comment or a question, I'll glad to take it. Or we'll just call it an evening. Anybody's got a question? People are pumping me with a million chats, but now it's time for questions and nobody says anything. Let's talk with Miss Linda, and then we'll go to Marcia. Yeah, Linda.
I don't really have a question. First of all, this didn't go too long for me. I wanted to see all of it. I think it's really important. I know you're tired because it's a lot to do, 90 minutes. But I wanted to just say that your chart, your Mitch McConnell chart's really, I think, spot on. And if people take a look at the Jane Mayer article on him that just came out this week in the New Yorker, you know, the conclusion of that article, the sort of big picture of it, is that there's nothing to him at all, that he believes in nothing. And people have just said that. I mean, there are people who just say that. So I think, I think that the chart you did validates what other people who know him have said. So, well, I'm not talking about opposite political figures. I'm talking about people who work with him. Say that.
I appreciate that. That makes sense. That's what you can see. But it even goes further. It's based upon being rejected socially. With the Venus, for the Venus opposite Pluto. Thank you very much. That's a good insight. Marcia, let me get to you. You're on.
Yes, I'm confused why the Jupiter is always with Trump.
Every time I've done something major, and I've talked an awful lot through the years about this hitting him and that hitting him, and these could be major chunks taken out of his side, etc. Jupiter's just always somewhere that protects him. Okay, well, one of the reasons that Trump gets away with what he does is because he believes that he deserves no flack. But another reason, you don't just put Jupiter over there physically. Jupiter follows you. His archetype is being protected. He is the ugly American. You are about to be signed out. See, we might be signed out no matter what. How's that? I was messing around earlier, and it's going to just sign me out anyway. So we'll go down when we do. So if he had faded from sight a year earlier, somebody taking his place, we wouldn't have the same fight. We're having to go through with the fight of us against the plutocracy. And that's why he has to be